Hello, everyone. We are going to start. Thank you very much to be here. I'm Guillaume Blaquiere. I'm Google developer expert on Google Cloud, and that's why I'm an expert slide, and I will talk about a lot about Google Cloud, but my principle will be applied on other clouds, of course. And I'm also a data architect at the headquarters of Carrefour. And I would like to talk about how we synchronize our data platform at Carrefour and all the issues that we had during this journey. First of all, do you know Google Cloud? Yes, okay. Let your hand up. Do you know what this service? It's more difficult. Okay, it's just to evaluate your knowledge on Google Cloud. This service is named Cloud Run, and Cloud Run is a serverless service. I love serverless. A serverless service to run your containers in serverless way. I mean, you build your container, you deploy your container, you run it. You have nothing to provision, nothing to configure, nothing to prepare. You only have to deploy your container, and that's all. Just a parenthesis about this, I said a container. It's not a Docker, it's not a Docker image. Docker is a wonderful tool. I use Docker most of the time to build my container, but it's container. You can build container with something else. So please, when you are working with your colleagues, talk about containers and not Docker, because Docker is only a tool. Just for the parenthesis. So that's the main service that we will use in this project, and I use a lot Cloud Run when I can. And so we'll see that just after. Now, another question. Do you know Carrefour? Yes, it's not so obvious, because in Switzerland, we are not Carrefour store in Switzerland. It's in France, mainly in France, but France is very close, but that's why I'm asking. Personally, I'm living in France, in south of France, and there are a lot of Carrefour stores around me. But when I joined Carrefour three years ago, I discovered that Carrefour is a big company. And when I think big, we are in more than 40 countries in the world, because India is not here on the map. We have millions of customers. And especially, we have more than 3 billion of tickets per year. I just would like to enlighten this number, because we have also a lot of use cases, a lot of data, and then I pick one use case to demonstrate or to use during this presentation, and we use the tickets in this use case. This use case at the headquarters, we have a use case named Carrefour Links. The principle is the following: Carrefour is a big company, is a results of many merge and acquisition during the years, and we have many countries, different countries, and all the countries are autonomous. We are a decentralized company. But all the countries doing the same job and the same activities, so all the countries have the same data domain. The loyalty and the customers, we have the stores, we have the e-commerce website, and the supply chain. And all the countries are autonomous to process their own data, their own operational data, as they wish. We'll see a lot of Google Cloud icon here, because Carrefour use Google Cloud for 85% of its assets. So it's our first cloud provider at Carrefour. But you can see here in France, you have Kafka and Elastic, because countries are autonomous to use the best tool for their use cases. But what are the tools and the services? All the data land in BigQuery. So this logo here is BigQuery. BigQuery is the serverless, again, serverless data warehouse on Google Cloud. That means it's best for analytics. You have a petabyte, exabyte of data, and you can process this data in a short period of time. But it's for analytics. It's not for operational database and low latency query and SQL. It works with SQL, but the warm-up to start all the node and all the components of BigQuery take about 1 second. So 1 second is very slow when you have an interactive website. Only for analytics. But all the data in their local data platform, in fact, for each countries. And what we are doing at Carrefour, we have a project named United to unify all this data. in terms of format, but also in terms of timing, and to have an aggregation of the data in a central place. I'm working in the United team, and we are synchronizing the data here. Why? Because when you have all the data from all the countries of Carrefour, we can serve many use cases. As I said, we have Carrefour links, but also other use cases about the supplies, the forecast, the purchases, and so on. So what is doing Carrefour links? Carrefour links so gather all the data from all the countries, especially the tickets. Remember, 3 billion of tickets per year. And Carrefour links will split all the tickets, will take all the items of the tickets and group these items per provider, per supplier. His name is CPGs, consumer packaged good. It's like L'Oréal, Nestlé, Mars, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, and so on. And we have one data set in BigQuery per suppliers. And we are reselling this data to them. Why we are doing that is to show to our suppliers, to our partners, which product has been sold in which country, in which store, in which area in the world. And our suppliers are able to join this data with their marketing campaign and other activities that they have in their side to be able to understand their customer behavior. That's the principle of Carrefour links. And there's a lot of success for this because many suppliers lack this data and do not know how their customers, the end customer, behave with their products. So that's the principle and what we would like to achieve. So let's start our data journey from there. Just remember what we like to achieve is this. We have different countries with their local data platform, for example, France, Brazil, and Spain. We need to synchronize all this data in the group data platform named United, and from there we have use cases for our business. And here we have Carrefour links. So let's start with our first use case, and first, from the beginning, I would say. 4 years ago, we started like this. We have to synchronize the data in United, then to start the point of sales use case, point of sales POS, and we have the data shopper use case, both for links. So from there, what will you use for this? Do you have any idea of how to synchronize, how to orchestrate this pipeline? What you use as first product? Any ideas? Okay, the simplest one is a scheduler. Here, a new logo here. It's Cloud Scheduler. It's a stupid service. In fact, you have a cron expression, and when you reach the time, you trigger an HTTP request. And so HTTP request, and you trigger your Cloud Run to process something on BigQuery. And so we have 3 schedulers, and we orchestrated our pipelines like this. Start at 10 p.m. We are starting our synchronization in United. At midnight, we are starting the point of sales, and at 2 a.m., we are starting data shopper. Okay, no problem. It worked well, very well. And our customers, the suppliers, ask us for more, of course, for more. Where can we put this use case? Here, the supply use case. The night is too short, so what's the solution here? Any ideas? Yes, no? Okay, the most simplest one is to parallelize. If you have parallel processing, you can shorten your processing time. And you have also the notion of the pattern of fan-in and fan-out. I will just explain that. So, for example, if I'm taking the use cases for Carrefour links, at midnight, we have a scheduler. And instead of starting only one use case, we will parallelize all our use cases for this, the data shopper, POS, and the supply. So that's great, it works, and this pattern is named fan out. In fact, you have one event, and you have many branches from one event. The pattern is fan out. For United, it's the same thing. In fact, we have at 10 p.m., you have a trigger from scheduler that trigger a cloud run, and all the data from France, Brazil, Spain is copied to United, and we have a fan out again. But also here you have a fan in when all the branches converge to the same point. And again, this parallelism is ensured by a framework that we use at Carrefour. Is named DBT. DBT is a SQL orchestrator. In fact, you define your sources and your destination, and DBT understand if the sources are not dependent, you can run your query in parallel, and all the queries are linked like this with the source and destination definition in your DBT schema. So that's great. We have parallelism for United. You have parallelism for the data shopper, for the Carrefour links parts. It's great. It works well, but it's not perfect. Not perfect because here, in the best case, you have a waste of time. Do you know what is the worst case? Sorry?
Not enough time.
Yes, not enough time. But for what? In fact, the problem is if you take too much time to copy the data to United, you can cross the midnight timeline, and maybe you have some use cases started to process the data, even if all the data are not integrated in United. So you have inconsistency in your use cases, and that's why it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare because you pay for the processing for the use case for nothing. You need to clean up your data sets before starting the new integration. So it's totally a nightmare. That's why it's the worst case. It's this nightmare. And the best case, you have a waste of time. So, and how you can solve this? Sorry? Oh, yes, exactly. To go to event-driven architecture and to imagine when you finish to integrate the data in United, you can publish something. You notify, in fact, you will publish a message in a topic in service on Google Cloud named PubSub. PubSub is a publisher and subscriber, so you publish messages in a topic. And you have subscriber. You can create subscription on these topics. You have two types of subscription. You have a pull subscription. The clients connect to the topic or to the subscription and pull the messages. Or you have a push subscription. And the push, you can push your messages to HTTP endpoint on Google Cloud or elsewhere. Here is good because we have a push subscription, and instead of having a cloud scheduler to call an HTTP call to Cloud Run, here we have a push subscription to call our Cloud Run. The same Cloud Run, but another events to call it. And from there, we can perform our use cases for Carrefour links. That's good. That's better. And we have optimized our synchronization here, and we also gain, when all is working well, a replay time. Because as you know, in IT, something are going wrong, and you need to maybe to replay your use cases during the night. And you can open on time the service for your, for your customer. That's great, and we implemented that last year. In fact, in 2023, so 2 years now. Good, but not perfect. Not perfect because why? At 10 p.m. we are starting here our data synchronization. It does not make really sense because we have many use cases different in the countries. As I said, the countries are autonomous. We are a distributed company, And for example, in France, the most advanced country for data processing, we are in near real time to ingest the data in our data warehouse. We are about 15 minutes after the, for example, when you pay in a store, 15 minutes after we have the transaction in our data warehouse. In our applications, it's faster because it's an operational database, but for analytics, 15 minutes, it's fine. When you're taking Brazil, it's different. So Brazil, 10 p.m. doesn't make sense. 10 p.m. in France doesn't make sense in Brazil because of the time zone. You are not. It's middle of the afternoon for Brazil, so it doesn't make sense. You will only have the whole data of the day before. And for Spain, it's also different. For example, in Spain, they are moved to cloud. They are taken their Cloudera cluster on-prem. They move their Cloudera in the cloud, but they are still on Cloudera. In fact, they are not using BigQuery. They are extracting every day at 9 p.m. Their data from Cloudera and load them in BigQuery to make the data available for us at the headquarters. But sometimes it fails, sometimes it's not complete. And because Spain do not use this data for their analytics, they do not know if the data are correct or not. This is changing this year, but right now it's a problem. So what we like to achieve, in fact, is to have a synchronization when all the countries are up to date. We like to synchronize our data. What we can imagine, but not at Carrefour, is something impossible. Impossible at Carrefour. It's not impossible globally. Why impossible? Because we can choose at the headquarters to say to all the countries, now at 8 p.m., for example, you start to update your local data platform because after I will be able to get your data on time. Why it's impossible? Because I said Carrefour has been built with merge and acquisition. The countries are autonomous, and the headquarters has not the power to force countries to work at a precise time. We can't. At Carrefour, we can't. Maybe in your company you can, but no, it's impossible. So, in fact, the ideal solution that I will look for is only a fan-in pattern. That means all the countries can update their data platform when they want. I don't care the time, the frequency, and so on. It's not my problem. But when it's done, the country notify us that the local data platform is up to date. And when all the data platforms are updated, are OK, we are a message in PubSub to be able to synchronize our data to United. And of course, if a country has an issue because it's IT and IT is not very reliable or not always, you can have a trigger, for example, at 10 p.m. as before, to be sure to force a synchronization per day and to decide to synchronize or not later on. This solution here, when you have multiple events to be synchronized and centralized in a single tool, I search for it on Google Cloud. It does not exist. I ask my colleagues on Azure, because Azure, we are working on Google Cloud and a little bit on Azure at Carrefour. Again, this kind of solution does not exist. I asked some colleagues 2 years ago about AWS, and also not. Maybe today, yes, but 2 years ago, it was not the case. So, a problem. How to do this? So I discussed with Google, and Google proposed me a solution. And I was not happy with the solution proposed by Google. It was this one. On Google Cloud, you have a service named Cloud Workflow. It's a state machine. And in fact, you have only action and a transition between each action. So you can start every day, I don't know when, maybe in the morning, 8 a.m., a workflow. You execute a workflow. This workflow will create parallel steps, and for each country, you can generate a callback URL and send this callback URL to the country. The country stores this callback URL during the day and performs their updates of the data platform, no problem. And when the data platform is up to date, they can use the callback URL to notify that their country is OK. No problem. We are waiting with kind of workflow all the callback URLs. And when it's OK, the next step is to publish a message in PubSub. And OK, we are continuing to united synchronization. If one country has an issue or doesn't work and so on, we have a timeout on a callback URL, and we can use this pattern like this. OK, that's the solution proposed by Google. I don't like it for two reasons. The first one is not only a fan-in. You have, yes, here you have fan-out at the beginning and then the fan-in. I don't want this fan-out. I don't want that the headquarters choose to ask to the countries to work now. The second problem is, remember, we are a retailer. We are selling potatoes in store, and we are not expert in ITs. We have some experts in some countries, especially in big countries like Brazil or France, because we have a large IT team. But small countries like Poland, like Romania, maybe Italy or Belgium, the team is very small. And when I'm saying you can send a URL to a country and the country will store it, what does that mean? The country is able to expose an API to be able to receive the URL and to store the URL somewhere. Okay, it's pretty obvious, but for some countries, for example, like Poland, the Poland data team is 3 people. It's very difficult for them to manage the analytics, to manage this kind of synchronization and so on. For them, it's too difficult, or they have something else to do before this. That's why it's not possible for them to do that. So we skipped this solution. That's why I choose to implement something in one weekend, because I was frustrated. And in one weekend, I choose to implement an open source solution named EventSync. The naming worse, whatever. But so EventSync is a very small tool. I write it in one weekend. It's about 500 lines of code in Go. So it's not rocket science, but it's helped me to solve my issues. What the principle of EventSync is to have 4 core components. The first one, you have a configuration, of course, to be able to reuse it many times. You have an event listener, because you need to get some events from multiple sources. You have event persistence, because when you receive events, you need to store them somewhere. And then you have the core, the brain of the service, is the condition checker. In fact, according to the configuration and the events you receive, you need to check if all the conditions are met, and if yes, you publish a message in output. If I put some technical components on it, you can find, of course, Cloudrun, a controller to listen some HTTP requests in input. You have PubSub to publish some messages in output. And here you have a new component. It's named Cloud File Store, a serverless, again, a serverless NoSQL database. On Google Cloud, you have nothing to provision. You pay for the data stored, and you pay also for the operation, the read, the write, and the delete operations that you made on File Store. And you have a large free tier per day, more than 30,000 read, write, and delete per day. So it's huge for our use case. If you are a mobile developer and you use Firebase when you have a mobile application, is the Firebase version on Google Cloud. It's very, very similar. In fact, it's the same service. Firebase is a wrapper on top of Firestore on Google Cloud. So that's the technical architecture. I have some feature on it. Just a quick recap, because I have nothing to sell on it. It's open source. You are free to use it. I'm very happy if you use it in the real world. First of all, I'm leverage all the Google Cloud services. I mean, it's serverless for Cloudrun, Firestore, and PubSub, and with the free tier of Google Cloud, you pay nothing to run it. So it's free. It's all on it's serverless. You have nothing to configure and provision. That's right. The second aspect is the security. Because you are fully in Google Cloud, you use the IAM, identity and access management of Google Cloud, and it's it's cool because you have nothing to worry about the security. It's integrated to a Google Cloud Platform. Now you have some configuration. You can customize the endpoint with the name, the accepted HTTP verb, the post, the put, the get, the delete, etc. You can process the events in synchronously or asynchronously. That means if it's synchronous, you get the event, you persist the event, you check the condition, and then you send an answer to the caller, to the events caller, to say, OK, I receive your message. Or asynchronously, if you want to get the event, persist the event, say to the event sender that the message has been persisted, and then calculate or perform the condition check to send a message. And you have also the capability to configure the trigger. Of course, the observation window, if you want 1 hour, or as at Carrefour, we have 24 hours of observation period. You can keep the event after a message, after all the conditions. You can keep the message in the past when you are triggering a message with EventSync, or you can clean the history of the messages. You can also request the minimum number of occurrences of each endpoint. And finally, the message that is generated by EventSync contain all the messages received by the listener, by the event listener. Why? In fact, the idea here is to say when you are generating a message with EventSync, it's like a report. And I would love in the future that all the country not tell me, OK, my local data platform is up to date. It's OK, my local data platform is up to date, and my data quality or the data completeness is that. Each local data platform send me their local reports of their data integration, and then I will aggregate all these local reports in outputs to let the subsequent services, like United, to say, OK, I have 90% of the data, I can start my aggregation of all the countries, or I have only 40% of the Brazil data. I prefer not to perform my data aggregation because the data will be inconsistent and so on. But it will be the choice of the subsequent services to choose if they start or not their processing according to their to this report. I'm saying that because 2 years ago we had an issue with Brazil because Brazil is a big country and they had an outage, a network outage in the country, and we only received 60% of the store's data and not the whole data, and we didn't know why. They had an outage, a network outage in the country, and when we integrated this data in United and then in Carrefour links, we had our sales in Brazil drop dramatically, and we didn't know why. And it was only a technical issue and not a sales issue or a store issue. It was because Brazil was not able to gather all the data in time because of their network problem in the country. That's why if you have a report like this, it could be better to anticipate this kind of issue. So just to have some better view of the product, I have a demo for you. Just about a word about the demo. In fact, you have EventSync, because it's the purpose of the demo. I have a website. I'm not a front-end developer, so be kind with me. It's not very nice, but it works. So the web page, we send some events to EventSync, the event, in fact. And when a message is published, it's published, of course, in PubSub. And I have a special demo backend that listens all the messages on PubSub and publish the message on the web page with a WebSocket. So let's jump to the demo. And yes, I agree, but I was connected. Why I can't go there? Okay, just let me go back here. Yes, it worked. Okay, So here's my HTTP page. OK, my service answer me. I have a config endpoint to get all the configuration of the endpoints. I have entry A, entry B, and entry C. The entry B requests three occurrences to be OK. And let me scroll down. And here, the entry C requests only one occurrence, but will keep only the last received, and will send only the last received in the message. So let me show you what we can do. So I have one event on the entry A, and send it to the service. OK, it's logged here. I have one of the entry B. On the entry C, I have also one here. What? OK. So I have one event on each, but entry B requires 3 events. So I will add one more here, maybe one more here on the C also. Yes. And when I will send the last event here, I will receive a PubSub message. So I publish the last one, and yes, I publish the message. It has been processed synchronously, and I receive the message because my event has been correctly processed with a 200 HTTP answer. So what's the results? It's the comprehensive report here. I have the entry A here with one occurrence. Its name A1. OK. Entry B with 3 occurrences with B1, B2, and B3. Perfect. And for entry C, I received 2 occurrences. I keep only the last one. So for entry C, I have only the C2 and not the C1 because the C1 is not the last one, it was the first one. And I want only to keep the last one. Why I'm saying that? Because, for example, if you are taking the France use case, the France is almost up to date, always up to date. And maybe France can send a message, an event every 15 minutes when their local data platform is up to date. OK, I'm ready. OK, I'm ready. OK, I'm ready. OK, but I don't care to have 30 or 40 messages per day for France. Only the last one to tell me, OK, I'm ready, and to have that time of the latest message received from France is enough for me. I don't need to have more data, more detail. So that's all. So yes, I can force the trigger. So if I force something with no events, of course, I have only no events for each entry. I can reset my history and stuff like this. So that's just a short demo for this, but how we can integrate this at Carrefour. At Carrefour, in fact, we would like to use it. We would like. Why? Because we started to implement this with France last year. Then with inflation and budget cuts, we have difficulties to work with other countries. Again, the countries are autonomous in terms of delivery, but also in terms of budget. And if the countries don't have the budget to work with us, we are limited by their budget. So right now, we are working with France, but we need at least 2 countries to be synchronized. So right now, we are not in production with this solution at Carrefour, but we started to work with France. France, for example, use it, and I hope other countries soon. And they use the same notification URL because they have to send always to use always the same URL every day, and not a new callback URL every day and so on. So it's always the same callback, the same notification URL to call EventSync to send their readiness, or at least, or better, a report of their data integration on their local data platform. When all the conditions are met, we can publish a message in PubSub. And of course, if you can't, you can have a scheduler at 10 p.m. as before, and to force the message delivery to PubSub. And if you have some 0 for some countries, it's up to United to choose. Do I have to start my synchronization if one or many countries are not up to date, or not? So it's up to the subsequent process. That's all for me. If you want to have a try on EventSync, use it, try it. If you want to contribute, feel free to do it. If you have some questions, or if you want to ask me to improve it, I will be happy to do it because I like this small tool. And if you have some question now, I would be happy to answer you. If you have some question later, I'm on Blue Sky or Twitter or LinkedIn. If you have some questions, EventSync is here. I will publish my slides on LinkedIn and Blue Sky if you want to have the slides also. And that's all. So if you have some question, I'll be happy to answer you now. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, and very insightful and inspiring. I'm quite curious, like how you arrived to a point where you have to build it yourself. Have you looked at other open source alternatives, even commercial ones, or SaaS services?
I'm sure it's this kind of solution exists. For example, I'm sure Solas offers this kind of solutions, but we prefer open source or free solution at Carrefour. Again, the budget is complex. I didn't have a look on other open source services, or yes, a quick look, but I didn't find something easy to use. And honestly, I used many times this kind of service to listen events and to use FileStore to store the events and to publish message 5 or 6 years ago when I worked for Veolia with some colleagues. I implemented that so many times to implement this use case. And I would like also to develop something more generic with this pattern. I like to develop, so it's also fun for me to develop. So I'm sure commercial solution can offer this, but we don't want to pay for this. Open source, I didn't find something easy to use, and because I like to develop, I develop it. But it's a good question. Other questions? The mic is up. No questions? Cool. Thank you very much for your attention, and see you later in the conference or later on the internet. Thank you very much.